All right, good morning and welcome back to Charlotte Street Computers Training. Today we're talking about iWork Essentials for the Mac. iWork is the name that was given many years ago to the collection of the three apps, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. That at the time they didn't come with every Mac. They were sold separately in a little box, and that's where the name iWork came from. Today they're included with your Mac. Brand new Macs come with Pages, Numbers, and Keynote preloaded. Pages is for word processing. Numbers is for spreadsheets, and Keynote is for presentations. They would line up with the popular Microsoft software of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So we're going to take a quick dive into these things today. And good morning, Angela. I see your comment over there. I'm at home, so we're working from home today. Let me just go ahead and slide out of here. I'm gonna be using Catalina this morning, and this is the latest operating system for the Mac, and that means I've also got the latest versions of Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. So I'm gonna go ahead and open those up. I've got them down in my dock here at the very bottom. If you don't have them in your dock, you should be able to find them with the launch pad over here, and you can type in their names up at the top. Just move my picture down here towards the bottom here. Thank you. All right, so if you go to Launchpad and just start typing, NUM for numbers, KEY for Keynote. Of course, that also brings up the keychain access, but that's another way you can find these things. Additionally, you can come down to the Finder and click on Applications, and they should be in your applications. So alphabetically probably is the way they're organized. I have already put them in my dock, so I've got easy access to them. What I'm gonna do, because we've got only an hour to talk about 3 different programs, what I'd like to do at the very beginning is to talk about the things that they have in common. I'm gonna go ahead and open up all 3 programs simultaneously for a few minutes. Then we will go in and spend some time with Pages, some time with Numbers, and some time with Keynote. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on Pages first. This is the open dialog box, and I'm not 100% sure that yours will open to the exact same open page. Mine has opened to the iCloud folder of Pages. You might be in a different folder here. It might be opening to your documents or something like that, but mine's opening to, it's showing me my Pages files that are inside iCloud. And by the way, you can actually change the way these things are displayed. I can get larger icons with this little button right here. This morning I'm going to be interested in this new document icon button right here in the lower left. And the same thing with Numbers. I'm going to open up Numbers. Now, if you haven't opened these programs in a little while, I haven't used Numbers since they updated this a week or two ago. They updated all 3 programs with some new features, and so anyway, there's a feature list of some of the things that they've changed. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue through that, and you can get all the changes from a Apple web page. And then I should get a similar box to what I had for Pages. It's at mine again. Mine is opening, showing me files that are in the Numbers section of iCloud. And again, I'm going to be interested in this new document button in the lower left. And so I'm going to also head down to Keynote and do the same thing. And again, Keynote folder of iCloud, new document in the lower left. So let's go ahead and start clicking the new document button. On Pages, when you do that, and this is a new look to the template chooser. There's a new template chooser that just came out. If you're using, let's see what version of Pages this is. This is version 10. So it's actually a little bit unfamiliar to me. I've been in here once since this happened, and so on the left-hand column, they've got all the different kinds of templates that they include. Actually, this is the new section here. These I have never really explored these before. These just came out in the version that came out a week or two ago. Here's the original basic section where you can start just a blank document if you don't want to have any interference from Apple designers. But they've got templates for reports, for books, for letters, for resumes, flyers and posters. And so what they've done here is basically they've hired a designer to pre-design documents for us, that for those of us that aren't particularly graphically inclined. So got some newsletters already laid out for us, and all we have to do is open these up and replace the content that they've put in there. Usually it's kind of a gibberish text, so that you'll become aware that this is, obviously needs to be changed. You would replace your photos with their your photos, their text with your text, their headlines with your headlines. And so they've got all these different kinds of templates that are already made for you. And if you create something like a newsletter yourself, you can save your own things as a template so that you don't have to redo those every single month or every single week or whatever. So I'm going to come up to, for the purpose of the class, I'm going to be starting a blank document. So I'm not going to have any special features, but I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. All right, so completely blank page here. And now I'm going to come over to my numbers open dialog box, and I'm going to click the new document button. And again, I've got different kinds of templates. So they've got some business ones, education ones, like attendance records or grade books, or invoices for business, personal. I think they've got some, I thought they had an inventory one somewhere, but different kinds of templates. I'm going to be doing the blank one again. So I'm going to double click on that, and we'll kind of move that one over. I'm grabbing this by the way, I'm grabbing this by the toolbar up at the top. Let's switch over to this view. I'm using my trackpad, and I'm pressing down with my thumb, and I'm grabbing this with my finger, sliding with my finger to move this out of the way a little bit. And actually we'll slide it. You know what? I think I'm going to slide it down like this so we can kind of line up the tools with the different programs. Okay, so now I'm heading over to Keynote, and we will do the same thing. Again, it's open to my iCloud folder. I'm going to click New Document. This one, actually, this is new, brand new. They've actually got some different kinds of categories for the presentations. There's not really categories of kind of presentation. They're all presentations. They're just different design categories. So so anyway, this is that's a new. They didn't used to even have anything on the left-hand column for Keynote. Got some new presentations for us. Again, I'm going to come over to the basic one, and I'm just going to do a basic white presentation for this class. So click Create in the lower right, and I'm going to grab a corner, make this a little bit smaller, and we'll pull this down. I'm actually going to pull Pages, make it a little bit wider, and then we'll get the numbers in the Keynote. So I've got all three of them stacked up here. And you will notice that this middle section is almost identical between the three programs. So we've got three programs that do completely different things, but we have a common set of tools in the very middle. The very first one in Pages and Numbers is a little bit unique, but then we have the second tool. It's kind of very light gray when a program's in the back, but I've got a table option in Pages and Numbers. Table, 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 Keynote, there it is. Chart, 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 so you can make charts in all three. Text box, text box, text box. Shape, shape, shape. Media, this is where you would access photos from your photos library and other things. And then if you're collaborating with other people, they have a comment section to where you can insert a comment that wouldn't be visible if you print your document, but it would be visible to the other person when they're working on it. And then there's actually a button for starting collaboration. So This is actually a little bit more sophisticated than just the comment section. You know, what we used to do if we were collaborating in the old days is we would email documents back and forth, and we'd be able to look at each other's comments of things that we might have changed. Collaboration is actually something that happens in the cloud, where you could theoretically be working on the same document with other people at the same time. So that's also common to each one. And then over here on the right, you'll notice that I have a little paintbrush on all three programs. This is called the Format button, and this is actually where most of the tools are kept for the programs. The things that you might be used to seeing when you're in Microsoft Office at the top across the toolbars in Microsoft Office are kept in this little drawer section of Pages, Numbers, and Keynote underneath the paintbrush. And then there's some additional things under these extra buttons. Both Pages and Keynote have a document section. Numbers has an organized section, so that's a little bit different. And Keynote has an animate section that we're going to be looking at. The big set of tools that you're going to be looking for is going to be under the paintbrush. We're really going to see a ton of things in the Pages section of that. But there's one more thing that I want to talk about is the Share button up here in the menu system. So this is the Keynote one, but Pages has a Share button, Numbers has a Share button, and so when you come up here, there's going to be this option to send a copy. And because Apple does not make Pages, Numbers, and Keynote for PCs, if you're sharing your document with a bunch of people, you're probably going to, instead of just attaching the document into an email that you've been working on, the Pages, Numbers, or Keynote document, you're going to want to come up and click Share, Send a Copy. And when you click the Mail button, it's going to ask you if you want to send it as a Numbers document. And chances are, unless you know that you're working with a person that has a Mac, chances are you're going to want to share it with them in either PDF or Excel if you're working in Numbers, or if you're working in Pages, you're going to want to share it as PDF or Word. If you are working in Keynote, similarly, you're going to want to share it as a PDF or let me click on Mail here, PDF or PowerPoint. In most cases, if you don't need the person to be able to edit the document, I would choose PDF. That will make your document look perfect, the exactly same way that you designed it in Pages, Numbers, or Keynote. It won't allow the person on the other end to edit the document. If you need them to be able to edit, I would choose the Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. If they have different fonts, that it may look different on their screen. If you've used some advanced features that only Pages, Numbers, and Keynote have, they may not translate perfectly into the Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So again, I'd recommend the PDF option. If you don't use the Mail app, so if your email system, if you're not using Apple Mail with the little postage stamp in the lower that I have on my dock here, the hawk with the postage stamp, then instead of using the Share button, you're going to want to use the File button and use Export. And so you'll have to kind of maintain a different version of the document besides your Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Save it as PDF or PowerPoint, save it as PDF or Word, save it as PDF or Excel, and then attach that second saved version of your document to your email in gmail.com or however you access your email. All right, so those are the basic common things. So I'm going to switch over to the Pages app, and I'm going to stretch this out this way. I'm going to grab it by an edge here and stretch out. And I think I'm also going to change the zoom level. So I'm going to click on over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we got more paper on the screen. So whoops, I think I just went a little bit too far. I want to be able to see the edges of the paper here, but I want to be able to see what I'm typing and so forth. So again, over here on the paintbrush section, this is where the action is. And this whole little set of tools will change dynamically. Move me out of the way a little bit. There we go. Will change dynamically depending on what you're doing. And so anyway, as I start inserting different kinds of things into the document, the set of tools will be changing. You'll see that in a minute. Let me come over to the left-hand side. I want to do a couple more things here. To the left of where I changed the percentage of view, there's a little sidebar option, and I've chosen to see the little thumbnails of pages, which right now I only have one page and it's completely blank, so that's what it's showing me. I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to at least one thing here. I'm going to turn on the show rulers so we can see where my margins are set. My margins are set to 1 inch. That kind of thing is set in the little button underneath document. So let's come over to document for just a minute or two here. This is where you can change between portrait and landscape if you need to make that change. It's like this. Here are my margins. So if I needed a larger margin, I could actually that's my top margin. I just bumped that down. Let's do my left margin. And you can actually see the little this little guy right here changing as I do that. So I'm gonna bump it back down to 1 inch. And you can also see a couple of things here. As I move my mouse from the top of the page into the body of the text, you can see this these set of 3 rectangles appearing. This is the header section, and that's what this over here under the document button. There's a header and a footer box. And anything you type in these little rectangles is going to appear on every single page of your document. So if you have a title, I'm going to go ahead and type, we'll just call this Pages Basics. If I had a title for my, my paper or whatever, let's see over here, it's offering to do a page number, but I'm just going to type in my name here. And then in the middle, maybe I could insert a page number. Or maybe I don't want to do that. I'm going to take that out. Maybe I want my page numbers to be at the bottom, so I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there's a footer section. And so I could insert page numbers here, and it will, as I increase my page count, those things will automatically keep track of what page it is. If you do not want these things, you can just uncheck these boxes. So I'm going to come up here and uncheck header, and that goes away. And it won't be there as I move my mouse between the top of the document and down into the body. So let's, I'm going to go ahead and check that back. And let me just talk about the body, the document body for a moment. Your typical Microsoft Word document or any word processing program you've ever used has basically had an invisible text box that has the boundaries of the text box being your margins of your document. There are other kinds of programs that you may be familiar with. Microsoft had one, I think they still have it, called Microsoft Publisher, that's a little bit more free form and made for things like newsletters and newspapers and magazines and things like that, where the designer of the document can put text boxes wherever they want. And so Pages is actually kind of a combination between, let's say, Microsoft Word and Microsoft Publisher. Or it's a little bit more like, maybe perhaps you've heard of Adobe InDesign or Quark Express, the programs that professionals use for creating magazines and newspapers. Pages can do a little bit of that kind of work, and if you don't want this, let me just type some text here. Some text can be typed in the let's capitalize that, document body. And I'm going to actually select that. So let's switch over here. I'm pressing down with my finger and dragging with the mouse, or over here I would press with my thumb and drag with my finger. And I'm going to copy that text. And then I'm going to come over here and type a space, and then come back and hit paste. Personally, I use the keyboard shortcuts for those kinds of things. The keyboard shortcuts for copying and pasting on the Mac are almost identical to what they would be on a PC. The letters X, C, and V are common to all platforms. C is for copy, X is for cut, and V is for paste. Not sure where they got V from for that, but P was already taken for print, so they had to find something else. But anyway, on the Mac, they use the Command key along with those letters instead of the Control key. So if you've been using those on the PC, you're going to be using Command is going to be your friend there. So for pasting, all I would have to do is Command V. So I'm going to, or just click there. And I'm going to type in one more space and select all that again. Command C to copy, and then I'm just going to paste this in over and over again. So this is my document body, and I'm going to select all that and copy that as well. So Command C for that. All right, if I uncheck this document body box over here in my sidebar, it's going to remove the margins. It's going to remove anything that I've done so far. So this would ideally be something that you make a decision as to whether you're going to use the document body at the very beginning. And I'm going to convert this to basically a desktop publishing program. And so now I still have the header, which I can uncheck that if I don't want it. But now I've got a completely blank slate, and if I want to type anything, I'm going to have to insert a text box. And I could put this text box wherever I want. If I want those margins, I could put the tip of my arrow in the ruler and drag out a margin or a ruler or a guide, they would call that, to the 1-inch mark. And I could pull in the horizontal ruler and drag down to the 1-inch mark. And then I can line up this box with those margins. But now I've got basically a column that I can make exact as tall or as wide as I want. Maybe I want it to go all the way to the 7.5-inch mark. Or maybe I want a sidebar. So I can just drag a sidebar down on the left. And I'm going to paste what I've already typed in here. So edit paste. And so you can see actually got too much text, so I've actually got a little plus down here at the bottom that I could create another box, and I could somehow, I can't remember, I click the little dot here and connect this to maybe I click on this one, click, and I haven't figured, let's see, some text, there we go, boom. So if I were to, I just somehow got these two things linked up. So if I make this box shorter, it's flowing over into my second box. So basically, this would be something like you would do in a newsletter where you've started a story on page 1, and then at the bottom of the box you could say story continued on page 6, and so it would then flow over to this other one. And I've got everything in the box now, so there we go. As I make it shorter, it's flowing over into that second box. You know what? I think I'm going to go back to the normal word processing thing. So I'm going to come back over and check document body. That actually leaves these things like I've got these. Doesn't have to obliterate these boxes, because in document body mode, you can still have extra text boxes. So we'll make this a sidebar over on the right, and then now we've got that extra normal text box basically that's inside the margins of the document. Right now it's actually overlapping the second box that I made, but I can force the text to wrap around this little box. So that's where we're going to head over to the format button, and we've got all kinds of options that are hidden inside here. So you're gonna want to do some exploring inside the format button, because there are literally hundreds of options that are hidden inside here. In the Arrange section, for instance, this is where I could determine the text wrap capabilities or text wrap properties for this box. I can say, you know what, anytime this gets near other text, I want that other text to wrap around this box. And so anyway, when I come over to the Style section, it's like, you know what, I want to apply a fill to this. I could use one of these pre-done things. I think I want the text to be smaller, so I'm going to Command Z to undo my changes. I'm just going to come in and apply a color fill to that, and I can pick whatever color I want to do from the little color picker here. And in this, if I do choose a darker color like that, then I'm probably going to want the text to actually be a different color. So I would need to come over to the text section and change its color to a different color. This text box actually has its own margins somewhere, and I'll have to poke around and find those margins. But it's going to be, here we go, we've got indents. That's the first line indent. If I do up for the left, that's going to force the text in a little bit over here. So you can have margins for little boxes. Anyway, let's do some other things here up at the top. I'm going to add a shape to my document. I'm going to click a little circle, and it's got a color fill already associated with it. Maybe I'll come in and add a color to that. I can change the size of my my shape. I can hold down the Shift key on my keyboard to keep it a circle, perfect circle as I'm dragging that. Or if I don't want to make it a perfect circle, I could make it an oval by letting go of the Shift key and just dragging this. And this has that wrap properties as well on both things. It's forcing the text to wrap around its shape. Anyway, shapes, you can insert all kinds of shapes. They've got categories of shapes over here on the left. If the shape is large enough, you can actually type inside the shape. It's actually, these shapes are actually text boxes. So I could actually double click inside there and I could type in, we'll say number 1 here, and I'm going to come over to my text and go to Style, and I'm going to raise the size of that. So I'm going to make that a very large number 1, and maybe I want to make that bold. Here's bold and italic and things like that over here. You can change alignment. If I wanted to change alignment of text, I can do that as well. We've inserted a text box. We've inserted a shape. I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to go over to Media, and I'm going to click Photos. And so what this does is it opens kind of a miniature version of your Photos app, the app that has the little flower on it down here in your dock. This is a very tiny little version of it. It'll have all your albums, any organizing that you've done. It'll even have some of your shared things. So you've got basically a shortcut to these things. Maybe I want this sunflower. I can take it and just drag it over into the document. Go ahead and close this. Very large. I'm going to definitely make that smaller. So I'm going to grab a corner of that, and we will press and hold with my thumb, drag with my finger, and make that smaller. You know what? I think I just want the sunflower here. I don't want the extra thing. So if you want to change the cropping of a photo, if I just grab a corner here, that doesn't really work. That's changing the whole size of the document. But if I double click on it, it brings up these extra little tools here. And so this is the kind of the universal symbol, and I've seen this on PC programs, I've seen this on Macs, I've seen this on iPhones and iPads. This little symbol is the symbol for cropping. If I can now, when I'm in that mode, I can grab one of these little dots and it actually crops the photo. I'm going to come down here and grab an edge here, and it crops the photo to the dimensions of your box. So if I wanted kind of a square thing, and then I can move this around inside the box. And if I just wanted half of a sunflower poking its head out, I could do that. And I need to switch back over to the crop tool, and we'll come down here. And so maybe I wanted that kind of a look. I'll click done. Maybe I want this at the top of this little sidebar here, and we'll resize that to be the size of the sidebar. So you can do some pretty cool things with images. All your images can be dragged and dropped from the media section into your document. And if later on I decide I want to replace this image, I can come over to the Format button, click the image spot, and I can click the word replace. And this time this is a little bit confusing, because instead of bringing up the little box for media like this, where when I click photos it brings up my photos, this brings up basically my Finder and asks me where I want to go. I don't want to go into my Finder, I want to go into the Photos app. And so here's a little trick that took me actually years to find this. If you scroll down in the sidebar of the little Finder window, there's a little section called Photos under Media. And this brings up basically the small version of your Photos app. So maybe I wanted to add the little butterfly to that little flower, and we'll click open. And I'm going to double click on that and reposition that right there. And so anyway, you've got some options here for replacing photos. Especially if you're using one of those templates, you can come in and replace a photo with another thing. You've also got some options here for changing exposure here we go. You can see my picture changing a little bit, and you've got basically some tools for editing photos, and right here inside of Pages, inside the image menu. So anyway, I haven't saved my document yet. It's basically in an untitled state. I'm going to come over to the File menu, and I'm going to click Save, and it's going to ask me where I want to save it. Mine is choosing the iCloud folder for Pages. If you don't have iCloud turned on, then it'll probably be going to your documents. I'm going to choose mine on my desktop. Let's just call this Pages Basics, and I'm going to click Save down here. And I'm going to start making some changes here. I'm going to say I'm doing some experimenting. I'm going to change this to a number 2. Maybe I will click away and grab the outer part of the circle and change the color, different color. Maybe I'll come over here and replace that image again with slide down, hit Photos, grab my original sunflower, and double click to rearrange its position. Click Done, and we'll change the color of this box as well. So kind of reverse the color scheme there. All right, so I'm going to come over and save again. And usually in programs, when you are in a document, you can use the undo button to go back to previous versions of your document. So I could do Command Z until I get to back. Maybe I just change my mind and I decide I want to go back to the number 1 and the other photo. I could do Command Z until I get there. Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. Command Shift Z goes forward. But if you quit your program, and I'm going to do Pages Quit, then when you quit, all the undos go away. It basically is like giving your program a good night's sleep. It forgets what happened yesterday. And so when I go back to Pages and open that document, which I don't see in my desktop here, but we're going to do File, Open Recent, and there it is. All right, so when I go back into the document, the whole undo redo section is grayed out. But one of the things that's unique about Pages, Numbers, and Keynote is under the File menu, this feature called Revert to Browse All Versions. Before I do that, I'm going to make one more change. I'm going to change this to just a emphasize what can be done. I'm going to change this to yet another color and make this yellow, and then we'll select all that text and make it a darker text. All right, so I've got 3 versions of my document. I'm going to go ahead and save this. For good measure, I'm going to go ahead and quit again. I'm going to quit Pages. I'm going to open Pages, and I can actually see my document on the desktop here, so we'll just access it like that. And now I'm going to go into the Revert to Browse All versions. And so what this does, somehow Pages, Numbers, and Keynote keep track of all the different versions. And I'm going to move my face out of the way here so you can see a little bit more what's going on. This is showing me the date of when the change took place. So I'm going to use this back button, and I'm going to go back in time. So today at 10:05, I had the number 2 version. If I go backwards, I can keep going. There's at 10:04, I had the number 1 version. And if I decide I want to keep that one, I can just click the Restore button, and it will go back to that version. So Pages, Numbers, and Keynote are keeping track of major different revisions of your document. And you can go back and recover those if you have been saving your document. So I helped someone the other day that had a completely full computer. We went up to Apple and About This Mac and went to the storage menu. There was no space over here. Funny things happen when you do that. And so she had actually been working on a document. It might have been, I think it was a Keynote document. Basically, it didn't have enough room to save changes. So this feature that we were that I'm just showing you didn't work because there was no room on the computer for it to be saving these different versions. So that's the only caveat to that. I want to add a text box, and I want to move it up to the top of the document, and I'm going to stretch it out to be the whole top of this section. And I'm coming back over to the document section, and I just want to show you this little thing called ligatures. You may not care about this, but I like design type things. Can you see my ligatures button? Yes, you can. This is some fonts that you use. The designers of the font are particularly artistic, and they care about the way certain letters combine together. And so they actually design in combinations for specific letter combinations, and they call that a ligature. I'm going to type in, let's go into Format, and I'm going to use a font called Hefler that comes with every Mac. There it is, Hefler Text. And let's make that big so you can see it. And I'm going to type in the word Office. And as I'm typing, you can actually see that the 2 F's are not exactly the same. They're actually, the second F is a little bit taller. In fact, I'm going to make this even bigger so you can see that a little bit better. The second F is a little bit taller. The crossbar is actually kind of going between both of them. And then I'm going to add the letter I. The little crossbar is going all the way over to the I, and the dot of the I is actually the tip of the second F. So that FFI is a ligature. So Office, and then I'm going to come over to Document and uncheck that. So this is what it would have looked like without a font that uses ligatures, just kind of normal type. But anyway, if you've got a fancier document, you can and you want it to look really nice, you can take advantage of some of these fonts. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and so we can type in some more words here. And I'm going to type in FI. So FIs are part of this. First F up, and now autocorrect just got me there. When I hit space, it automatically corrected that for me. There we go. FL is typically one of the documents, and make that a smaller one as well. And I want to show you a font that comes with every Mac called Zafino. It's a kind of a to be at the very bottom of your font list. I had it at the top there because it shows you recent things, but every Mac also comes with this one, ZAPF. There we go. Boy, a lot of fonts on this one. Zapfino. And I'm going to have to make this smaller so we can see the whole. This one has got a lot of different designed ligatures in it. In fact, I've got 4 different Fs in this little combination. The FL is a completely different F as the FI. The FFI is 2 other completely different ones. And in fact, I've got another ligature that most fonts do not have, and that is the S and the T. So again, if I come back to document and uncheck that, it's going to be just more uniform. But some beautiful stuff here. All right, so we need to move on. That's just a personal thing that I like. So also the newest version. Before I switch over to, I'm kind of interested in this. I don't even know where this is, but one of the new things in the new version of Pages is drop caps. And so let's go see if we can find that. Oh, yep, there it is right there in the very first section of text. I'm going to check that, and so that creates these large first letters of a paragraph that drop down, and you can decide how many lines it drops down. And so that can be a very nice way to, especially if you're doing desktop publishing type work, you can, and we'll come up to the very top here, and you can change this to the font that you want to do. So normally it would be the same one that you have for everything else. So new stuff for Pages and some of that. So let's go down now and let's click on numbers and to show you a few things here. If you have ever used a spreadsheet before, and again, I'm going to stretch out here and make this take up the whole page. If you've ever used a spreadsheet before, you will notice something right away about numbers, and that is that the cells inside the spreadsheet don't go off into infinity on the right and to infinity on the bottom. There's a set number of cells here, and you can actually grab this block of cells or this table by the little circle, and you can move this around on the blank canvas. So Apple doesn't just assume that you need a million cells in both directions, and they want to leave you some room to do things like to present your numbers and make it look nice. So for instance, I could actually come back to Pages and grab this this heading and come into numbers and paste it in there. It's gonna, normally what you would have to do is try to fit this into a cell. I'm going to undo that and click away from the table and paste again. And so now I've got a title for my spreadsheet that's not having to fit into one of the cells. So you can move other text boxes around. It leaves you the option of adding photos, adding charts into this that will look very nice. So if you need more cells, you can just grab the little circle at the right of your table, and you can drag that out. Additionally, you can drag them down at the bottom. For my test here, I'm gonna not need a lot of cells, so we'll just move this down a little bit, and I'm gonna change the name of this to Mac Sales. Probably would choose a different font for this if I was actually doing this for real. And we will call, I'm going to change this to, let's change this to Apple Sales. And I'm going to put up here in this top column, I'm going to put iMac, MacBook, I'm going to put iPad and iPad Pro. All right, so just a few categories there. On this column, I'm going to type in the word January in the first column, and as you might imagine, I might be wanting to track these by month. So on many spreadsheets, if you grab a cell by its right hand, the dot in the right hand corner, and you drag down, it will automatically fill the next cells with the next logical things. On Apple, they've decided to move that to the middle, and there's a little yellow dot on a cell. So if I grab that and pull down, it's filling in the numbers that are, in this case it's the title. So it detected that that was a month, so it just automatically put the next month there. I'm going to go ahead and type some numbers in here. And let's say things are heating up a little bit here. So we got 5 and... All right, so I've got some numbers. I want to add these numbers up. In fact, I'm not going to need these extra cells here, so I'm going to grab that little circle and make it smaller. I want to add this column of numbers. And so I'm going to click on the January section, and I'm going to shift click on the March section. So what do I mean by shift click? I'm going to pull over to my keyboard here, and so basically I was holding down the shift key on my keyboard while I was clicking. So we'll do this again. I'm going to click on the second column. I'm holding down shift with my thumb, and I'm going to click on the 7 in March. And so that selected this whole range of cells. It could have been 100 different cells there, but in my case it was just 3 of them. But down at the bottom of the document, it is it's offering me some formulas of things that it's anticipating that I might need. So the one I was looking for is the sum. But maybe I just want to see what my average sales was for MacBooks across 3 months. I could take this average and drag it into that box right there. In my case, I want the sum, so I'm going to drag this and drag the sum into that little box and then let go with my hand. And so we'll switch back to me here. So I've got a formula. When I click on this, the formula is down here at the bottom. It's the sum of C2 to C4. And basically I want that same formula to be copied at the bottom of this column, except it would be B2 to B4. But if I grab the yellow dot and drag in this direction, it didn't copy the number 18, it copied the formula. And so I'm going to do the same thing for these two guys. Whoops, I did basically a right click apparently. Let's see, let's grab that and let's grab this column, grab the yellow dot. And so it has copied the formula. When I click on the D, it's got the formula D2 to D4. So anyway, you can do some you can go up to help and you can search for formulas up here if you need something more complicated than that. What I'd like to do now is make a little chart. And so I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to click on this cell, this empty cell in between the cross between the two columns, and then I'm going to shift click on the last cell of this section right here. And so I've got the entire set of numbers and titles selected. And so I'm going to come up to the chart. So I'm going to do a 3D chart. And so here's my nice little chart here. I can actually grab this little circle. Let's move it around. Let's move it. I'll tell you what, let's move it over here. I can move this around. If I come over, I can change the depth of these. I'm coming over to the format section. I can change the depth of these things. I can change the style of colors. Maybe I can go over to textures and maybe I'll change this into a wood look here. So anyway, there's my sales for the different things, and showing the 3 different months. So maybe we'll turn it like this. And I want to make another chart of the basic totals. So I'm going to click on the 12 and shift click on the 4, and we're going to come over to chart, and I'm going to do a pie chart. And so I'm going to bring this over into the middle right here, and it has automatically detected my categories. We're going to change this over here to the same kind of look, and all right, so we want to emphasize one of the categories. Let's emphasize this one. I'm going to grab that little section and pull it out. But this still lets me rotate the whole section. I think these are just beautiful charts. So so anyway, I really like it. You can change lighting styles and and really go crazy with this stuff. So anyway, that's a quick look at numbers, and we've got a few minutes left. I want to go over and talk about Keynote, which is probably of the 3 programs, it's my favorite. So I probably should have spent the most time there, but usually most people are more interested in the Pages one. So I'm going to switch over to Keynote, and again, I'm going to stretch this out to fill the screen. And basically, no matter which template I would choose. So let's just do another new presentation. No matter which one of these templates I choose, I'm going to pick this photo portfolio one for a moment. All of the different slideshows or templates have got, it used to be a dozen, looks like they've added an extra slide or 2. All of them have 12 or 13 slides that are pre-designed for you. A slide with just a title, a slide with a title underneath a picture and a subtitle, one with where it's just a complete filled with a picture, one with 3 pictures. And so you'll have all these different pre-designed, one with bullet points. So they're pre-designed for the style that you chose. And so let me just go ahead and close this one, and I'll not save it. So I've got, since I started with white, I've got those same exact slides available to me with the white theme. Here's one with the title on top of the picture. So got these different slides. I'm just going to come over to this basic one, and here's my we'll just call this Keynote Basics, and we'll put my name in here, Tom Q, and we'll put this. This is what, April 2020. All right. So when I click play, this slide appears with all of its elements at the same time. But sometimes you want it to be a little bit. You want to present your facts. Or the ideas that you're presenting, you want to do it in a slightly more orderly fashion, or you don't want to spill all the beans with one slide. So you might want things to kind of be introduced gradually. So I've just pressed the escape key on my keyboard to get out of the slideshow, and I'm going to come over to the animate button. And this is where a lot of the goodies happen. It still has the format button, so you can, if I select text, it's still got all the options that that Pages and Numbers had for formatting text. But the animate button is unique to Keynote. So I don't want to animate the main title, but maybe I don't want my name to come in at exactly the same time as the title. So I can animate it. I can say, you know what, build this in. And maybe I just want a simple, and this is where all the fun comes in. You get to experiment with all these different things. I want a simple move in. There it is, right there. And so it's moving in from the left, and so I'm gonna maybe I want this to come in from the right, and I want to preview what that would look like. No, I think left or right might actually make more sense in this case. So you get to. And you can also determine how quickly it moves in or how slowly. And then we'll also have this one. Maybe we'll have this one. Let's have the date appear with fireworks. So anyway, that's probably not one I would use in this particular scenario. So when I click play now, let me go ahead and click play. My title appears, and when I click my mouse, or in fact, let's go over there. When I click my mouse or click my trackpad, there comes my second element. And when I click again, here comes my third element. And so I'm going to hit escape again with my keyboard and go back to the main group. There's some options, and let's switch back to me here. Over on the other side here, there's some options for the build order. And this is a very important button right here. You can determine when things happen. So for instance, maybe I want the Tom Q to come in, or let's just say I think I'll wait. I'll still click for Tom Q, but maybe on the date, I want it to happen automatically after Tom Q comes in. So instead of me having to click a second time, I'm going to have it automatically start, maybe with a half a second delay, and we'll preview that. So in comes my name, and then automatically comes the second thing there. And that would probably look better on a black background or something like that. So if I wanted to make a change like that, I could come over to the document and I could change. Change themes here. Maybe I'll change this to a black theme. And so now when I play it, here comes my title. I'm going to click, and here comes my name, and then there comes my date. So let's press my escape key, and so anyway, you can insert all kinds of things. You can insert graphics. You could use them if they're inside your Photos app. You could do that. If you just need something from one of your folders, you could click the choose command, and you could come in and find, maybe I've got something in my pictures folder where you know what, I've got in my iCloud Drive folder, I've got a new document here. So somewhere in here is my Keynote iWork Essentials. There it is. I'm going to insert that right there. That just took over the whole page, so I'm going to grab the corner and drag that down, and we'll let that come in here as a. So this is a photo. When I go over to the format option, I could choose some different looks for that photo. Most of these you can't tell against the black background what they're like. So anyway, different kind of borders and picture frames and things like that. So I think I want the one that kind of, you can't, on the black background you can't tell. So anyway, I've got this thing, I want to make it animate as well. So I'm going to add an effect, and we'll just make this one do a nice little dissolve. So it's just going to come in like that. Or maybe, you know what, I tell you what, let's do the anvil. There we go. I like that. All right, so we got that one coming in. Its build order is going to wait for a click. And then, and we're out of time, but this is too fun. I'm going to keep going. You can also add actions to an item. So you can, once it's come in, you can do additional things. So I'm going to add an action, and maybe I want to click move. So by default, it moves a little bit to the right. I think I want to move it above the title here. I want it to have a little bit of a curvature to it, so I'm going to grab this little line here, and we'll click preview to see how that looks. And maybe I want a little bit more of a. So anyway, you can get this exactly the way you want. Preview, and so now when I click play, got my basic title. I click on my mouse or on my trackpad. Element number 2 comes in. Element number 3 comes in automatically. It's waiting for me to click again. Click. Here comes the third element or the fourth element, and then when I click again, it moves. So with these basic commands, in fact, let's get out, and you can also make things go away. So let's say I want this, before this slide actually goes away, I want this element to actually disappear. So you can also make something go away. If you don't have any of your items selected and you go to the animate section, this is going to be a transition from one slide to the next slide. So that's you have to have nothing selected for that to happen. So and so let's see, I want on this slide, I want there to be, let's say, the doorway to the next slide. So so anyway, I'm gonna, and before I do this, I'm gonna switch over. I want to come up to the preferences for Keynote. We haven't really explored preferences on the different programs, but there's some. Keynote has a a pretty cool feature that I just want to show you. One of them is allowing your phone or your iPad to be a remote control for your presentation. So I could actually choose my phone, or you know what? We're going to use. I've already paired Johnny Appleseed's iPad with this. I'm going to switch over. Let's see. Let's go over to this button here, and I'm going to turn the iPad sideways, and we'll move my picture out of the way a little bit. There you can see Keynote in the bottom, just to the left of my picture. I'm going to tap Keynote. I could work on a presentation here, and it's telling me all the new features. I don't want to actually create a presentation, but in the upper right, and I don't think I can make my mouse go up there, but in the upper right, but you can see a little teeny picture of a phone up there with a play button. When I touch that, this is going to put this iPad into play mode for that presentation. So when I click play, it's showing me on the iPad what slide I'm on, which is, if I switch back over to the Mac, I'm on slide number 1, but the iPad was showing me the current slide and the slide that's coming up. So I can actually just touch that build, and on the here comes the, it's actually playing for my audience. But what I'm seeing is this. So the next thing that's coming in is going to be that little graphic. So when I touch it, boom, it comes in with its anvil effect. And then the next thing is going to be moving to on top of that. So when I touch that, boom, it moves. And when I touch it again, it's going to disappear. And then my next slide is going to look like that. So when I touch, here comes that little effect. I never did type a title, so it didn't put anything there. And then when I touch it again, it's going to bring up the next slide, which I never actually typed any information. So anyway, that's one of my favorite programs. Is this when you'll see a Keynote presentation that I did for iCloud and iCloud Photos when we do those classes. So Thursday, I can't remember which one's coming up. I think it's iCloud Photos, but we'll be taking a look at that. So we've gone over time. Thank you for tracking with us. That's a quick look at pages, numbers, and Keynote. And I'll show you before we say goodbye. I'll show you one more thing. And for this one, I'm going to head over to Safari. And I'm going to go to the Charlotte Street Computers webpage and click on the training menu that appears at the top. So actually, I was already on training. All right, let me stretch this out a little bit. Right below the calendar, so scroll down. Right below the calendar, there's this training resources link. And when you click on that, it will take you to a page I've kind of put together. I haven't seen anything quite so comprehensive as this on Apple's website, so I went ahead and started putting these things together. And as I'm finding manuals for Apple products, I've been putting links to them here. So in the Mac section, I've got manuals for Mac Pages, a manual for Mac Numbers, and a manual for Mac Keynote. So you just click one of the links, and it will take you to the book. Basically, it's a book, and the table of contents, Keynote Basics, Introduction to Keynote. And so anyway, if there's something that I went over too fast or something that I didn't go over at all, you can find these things in the book here. So all right, that was the last thing I wanted to show you. Just a quick selection of these different things here. So anyway, thank you for coming for iWork Essentials, and we'll hope to see you next time. So bye-bye.